Welcome again to Irenka's Kitchen. I'd like to share with you another favorite recipe that my grandmother and my mother made, and it's called cabbage pork stew, kaposta DISZNÓ PÖRKÖLT. So what I'd like to do is get started and show you this family favorite recipe, and it is very simple to prepare. So what I'd like to start off with is I've got some oil here, and the recipe calls for approximately a tablespoon of vegetable oil. So I've got that started on the stove top here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fry some onions into the vegetable oil. So I'm going to get that started. This is a great recipe. It has sauerkraut in it, it has an apple, it has pork, onions, and some spices like paprika, Hungarian paprika. So it's a great recipe. But what I do is I started off on this recipe on the stove, and then it eventually goes into the oven for 1.5 hours. If you check my recipe on website, it's also typed up on my website, and there will be a picture on the website so you can see what it looks like. So, and then what I've got is I've got some cut up pork, lean pork. So bite-sized, about a kilogram of lean pork. So I'm going to add that to my onions. And I'm going to fry this with the onions. I'm going to fry it for about approximately 15 minutes until it's sort of half cooked. And then I'm going to add my salt and pepper and my paprika to it as this is frying, and I've got it approximately, I'm going to start it off at medium heat. So as I'm stirring this and the pork is cooking, I'm going to add my spices. So I'm going to add my salt, and I usually use sea salt. And there is half a teaspoon of salt. Then I have some ground pepper, and that's about a teaspoon of ground pepper. And then I have a teaspoon of Vegeta. MSG free, you can get MSG free Vegeta. You can buy this at most delicatessens, your favorite delicatessen store. Sometimes some grocery stores will have it. Large grocery stores will have this spice. It's got dried parsley and parsnips and onions, and it's got a bit of sea salt in it, so I've added that also to my recipe. It gives a great flavor. A lot of recipes call for that. If you look at some recipes in Europe, you'll find Vegeta is a very popular spice. Then after that, I'm going to add the paprika to this as the ingredients are frying. And I use quite a bit of it. You can use less spice if you want. I've got 1 tablespoon of paprika. It could be any type of paprika. I use the Hungarian one. It's from Szeged, and you could get that at some of the deli stores. Sometimes grocery stores will have this spice. So it doesn't necessarily have to be Hungarian paprika, but I like to use that. And I continue to fry this. I make sure watch the heat, bring it down slightly a little bit lower, the temperature, and I continue to stir it. Stir in all the spices well. And then after that, according to my recipe, I add diced apples. So it can be any type of diced apple. So I have 1 apple added to this recipe also. I've got 1 apple. You can add more if you like. If you like more apples in the recipe. Pork and apples actually go quite well together. So I continue to mix these ingredients together. And then what I did was I rinsed about 5½ cups of sauerkraut. I rinse off the excess salt and water, the liquid, and I drain it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle the sauerkraut all over the meat, and then I'm going to bring it, all of the above ingredients, to a boil. I'm going to add my water also. I've got water. So I've got 1½ cups of water. So I'm going to add that to my recipe as soon as I put the sauerkraut in there. So I'm going to continue to fry this. This is a great recipe. It can be served with mashed potatoes or rice, or you can serve it with your favorite pasta. But the best, I liked it best with mashed potatoes. It really went quite well with mashed potatoes. But it depends on your preference for what you would like to serve the meat with. So I get the meat cooked slightly for about 15 minutes on top of the stove, and then eventually what I do is I put it into the oven. So I'm just going to add a small, maybe about ½ cup of that into the ingredients that I've added here. It's smelling great already. And then I add the sauerkraut to the recipe. So I just kind of spoon it in small portions, and then I mix it up with the meat. It's just easier to do that rather than putting the whole thing in at once. So I take a small couple spoonfuls, large spoonfuls of the sauerkraut, and then I mix it in well with the meat. It's looking great. It's smelling great with the sauerkraut. It's a great recipe. My mother would serve this also. We'd have a lot of guests at our house, especially on special occasions like Christmas and birthdays. This was a great meal to serve for company. But she'd have more than one dish. She'd have beef recipes. She'd have a chicken dish. All kinds of different kinds of recipes cooked up before her guests came. It's smelling great with the sauerkraut. So just rinsing and draining it in a sort of like a strainer. You've got one pasta, kind of like a noodle strainer. You just wash it down a bit. Get some of the excess salt off of it, and some of the maybe the vinegar that they use. It might be a little bit too sour. So I found that my mother would do that, and my grandmother would sort of drain it off. And you can also use shredded cabbage if you like in this recipe. It doesn't have to be sauerkraut. So I just continue to spoon this in, and it's going to go into the oven for about 1.5 hours in a roasting pan with a lid on. And I usually kind of check to see how it's cooking. And it's great. It just cooks in its own juices. And I'll bring the temperature up slightly a bit, and then I'm going to add the remaining sauerkraut into this recipe. And I just make sure I stir all the ingredients together thoroughly. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the remaining water. I've sort of said in my recipe a cup and a half, but if you find that you need to add more water to it, another ½ cup, then you can do that. You want to be careful not to add too much liquid, because you get the liquid from the cabbage and the onions. So it's already looking like it's got enough liquid on the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer all of this into a large roasting pan, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you the finished product, And then I will put it into a serving dish, and I will be taking a picture of it on my website. It'll be right underneath my recipe, which is typed up on the recipe, and then also there's a video to go with it. So I will be back, and I will show you this great recipe again. Hello, it's been an hour and a half, and what I did was I put the cabbage pork stew into the oven, and what I did was I put the temperature up to about 375, the oven, degrees Fahrenheit, and then what I did was after about a half an hour, I lowered the temperature to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And let that cook for about an hour in the oven, and now it's ready, and I've just taken it out of the oven, so I'm just going to go over to the stove. I've taken it out of the oven, and it looks fantastic. It's been cooking in there in the juices of the sauerkraut and so forth, so I'm just going to bring it over to the camera, and I'm going to show you exactly what this looks like. Now that's what the recipe looks like. It's got sauerkraut and pork and onions and spices, all kinds of spices, and it's just fabulous. So I'm going to have this picture on the website for everyone to see, and served on a dinner plate, and it's going to be served with mashed potatoes, and it's just smelling just fantastic. So this is one of my other great recipes that my grandmother passed down from my mother, and I hope you'll enjoy it. Until next time, bon appetit, jó étvágyat, and if you want to contact me at Irene@irenkaskitchen.com or ireneskitchen.com. Until next time, bon appetit, jó étvágyat.